a story can be like a puzzle. In a puzzle, we usually have a picture of what it looks like, and then there's pieces, and and so you're able to look at the picture of the puzzle and put the pieces together and then make the puzzle. So the way a story is like a puzzle is a story has our three main parts, right? Our beginning, our middle, and our end. And when we read a story, we start at the beginning and we read through from left to right, and we get to the middle and then we come to the end. But when we're writing a story, it's different than reading a story because we don't always have the beginning first. We don't always know everything that's going to happen when we start writing a story. So we take our puzzle pieces, and for instance, when I wrote, "Have you seen my frog?" the inspiration for the story started here with this part, with the auntie duck swallowing the frog. And so what inspired the story was when I was growing up, my family and I went camping a lot. And there was one time when we were camping and my Auntie Jane, well, apparently I put a frog in her coffee cup and she swallowed it. I don't know how far it got down, and then she got sick. She threw up. And she remembers that so vividly that she reminds me almost every time I see her. Now, I don't remember that happening, but I've been assured that it did. And so that was what initiated the whole story. The inspiration for the story was based off of that. And now that comes towards the end, right? That's almost at the very end. And so what I had to decide was, how did I take that inspiration and turn it into a story that wouldn't just be fun for me or my family, but that other people could connect to and enjoy. And so it took me about a year and a half, really, of thinking through different scenarios. Was this going to be a lost and found story? Was it going to be a mystery story of Duck finding Frog and not knowing what Frog... Anyway, there were just all these different kinds of things I was working through, a lot of questions I asked myself to figure out what were going to be the other parts of the story. But pretty quickly, I knew that at the beginning, because at the beginning we meet the main characters and we find out the setting, so the place kind of and the time that it's going to be. And I knew the main characters would be Duck and Auntie Duck and the frog. And I figured out it would be at a pond, because you're likely to see a frog there. And so then I was trying to decide, how are we going to get from here, from being at the pond and finding the frog to the frog ending up in Auntie Duck's coffee cup. And then I had another memory, or I remembered something else about camping, and it was a more recent event when I was camping with my family and my kids and some friends, and they had a pond out at their place, and when we were there, we saw all these little frogs just all over the place. And so I thought, well, what if there's more than one frog? And that could definitely add an element to it. So I knew that part, because then if there were a lot of frogs, then really this part clicked in next. So if there were a lot of frogs, then Duck would find Frog right away, and she would lose Frog right away. So that finished up the beginning part. And then as she was looking, as she was looking for the frog, she would talk to different characters, and they would all send her in different directions. And when she finally saw Frog, she would chase him, and that finishes our middle. And then he would jump into Auntie Duck's coffee cup, and she would swallow him. And at the end, Duck would be reunited with Frog. Now, one thing, if you notice, Duck doesn't know in the story of the big scare that her Auntie Duck had. And I wrote it that way on purpose because I don't remember the big scare that I gave my poor Auntie Jane when I was growing up. But so you see how the pieces of the puzzle all come together because we know the beginning, we know the middle, we know the end, that's how a story goes together. So no matter what part we know when, if we plug that in where we know it's going to go, then that helps us to put the rest of the puzzle together as we're writing our stories.